let's say 18 minutes past 1 o'clock. It's a big week to recognise the genuine heroes is a very fraught word, but you know what I mean when I say the people who volunteer in our community just to make it a better place to be for all of us need to be recognised and celebrated in the way that perhaps we celebrate other sectors of our community far too frequently. Joining me to sort of kick off the celebration for National Volunteer Week is the CEO of Volunteering Victoria, Thu-Trang Tran. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Jacinta, and good afternoon, all listeners.
What a week. Is this like Christmas for you, where you get to fly the flag of celebration for all the people in Victoria, particularly who are volunteering?
Absolute, and an absolute honour as well, and to have Alex to join in as well and talk about his experience.
Alex Cunningham joins us. He volunteers with SES Chelsea and Kingston Residents Association. Alex, welcome to the show.
Hi, Jacinta. It's great to be here.
Have you been volunteering for how long?
So I joined SES in January last year, sort of out of the pandemic. I wanted to sort of put down roots, more generally in my local area and meet new people and learn some new skills. And it's been a phenomenal experience.
So coming out of COVID, was it about this idea of community that really inspired you? What was it about that particular time that was instrumental?
Well, I think like all of us, we had a lot of time for reflection during lockdowns, and I wanted to. I just sort of moved, to the southeast of Melbourne, and I wanted to meet new people and get involved in local community holistically. And I looked at a few options, and then I joined a great team at Chelsea SES, which is actually one of the oldest SES units in Victoria. They'll be celebrating their 70th anniversary in November this year. And so I'm there with one of 50 volunteers, and it's a real privilege to serve, and I'm really loving it.
When you said, it sounds like a really beautiful reflection that you wanted to participate in your community holistically. So you looked at volunteering as a way to be part of the community. Is that how you saw it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, how, I'm in my mid-30s and people always say it's really hard to make new friends as an adult. And I sort of reflected on what that meant. It is sort of hard to make new connections, particularly if you're new to an area. But what I realised was when you it was so easy to make new friends, in high school because you showed up at the same time with the same people every week. And if you do the same thing as an adult, you're guaranteed to make new connections. And that's what's really happened. It's a real family at Chelsea SES. And the best part about it, obviously helping the community is great, is the connections that you make, in my experience anyway.
That is so reflective of what we hear about what it's like to be a volunteer and all the different ways that we can volunteer in this state. Thu-Trang, tell me from your perspective, you've been CEO of Volunteering Victoria now for some time, haven't you?
No, I've started in the middle of January, so it's been 3 months. So I'm freshly minted in this position as a spokesperson for Volunteering Victoria.
I'm so sorry.
That's all right. I have been CEO of Volunteer West, which is a regional peak body. That was 3 years before I joined Volunteering Victoria.
That's perhaps where we have run past you in the past. Tell me though, from your perspective, it's really actually great, your fresh eyes on this whole sector of volunteering. What's been the most kind of gobsmacking for you to look at in terms of what happens with volunteering in Victoria?
The thing that we learned from a 2020 research that Volunteering Victoria commissioned was that there are 2.3 million Victorian volunteers. That's a great number. And together, collectively, they contribute $58 billion to the Victorian economy. And that's something, as you say earlier, is something that needs to be recognised, the contribution to community and the economy.
That's the thing. We make such a hullabaloo about, particular people in our community, often celebrities or whatever, but the real incredible humans that we have are in our midst, people who get out there and just do stuff because they see that they have a role to play in their community, and it can be done through volunteering.
Absolutely. And what Alex shared is very typical of the motivations and what people get out from volunteering, to give to community to support a cause, and for social connections.
Because that's it, Alex. I mean, often people will say, they start off with the idea of volunteering as an act of service, that they would like to participate and contribute. But often people will reflect that volunteering has actually given them much more than they feel like they give themselves.
Absolutely. And that's certainly my experience. And I think it's a bit of a cliche. People always say that you get a lot more out of it than you put in, but it's absolutely true. And that's sort of why we spread. And I would recommend it to anybody who wants to feel more fulfilled in their life. It's a great way of achieving that.
It's such an important thing, isn't it, when you think about your local communities and participating in them? What good will it gives the whole environment when people are actually getting involved and working with each other and getting to know each other? Half the time we have issues with our neighbours because we don't know who they are.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that in the modern society, we get sort of trapped in our own silos, like talking to people who all think and believe the same things that we do, and it's sort of we naturally gravitate towards those people naturally. But volunteering allows you to connect with this cross section of people of society with different views, different backgrounds, and expands your worldview completely. And then also if you need help, as we all do, you can call on your neighbours and friends locally to fill that role.
Alex, you joined SES post the pandemic, so not that long ago. Have you been volunteering previously in your life?
Yeah, so I'm the president of the Kingston Residents Association. So I've been involved with KRA for the past 3 years. And previously that, my first volunteering opportunity was when I was 17. I volunteered for St Vinny's delivering Christmas hampers. I went to school in Mornington, and we paired it up with other volunteers, and we went around and delivered hampers to people who needed a little bit extra help at Christmas time, and that sort of really started my journey as a volunteer. And it's something I've always returned to, particularly when I moved to a new area to try. It's such an important part of my life, and I can't imagine it doing it any other way.
It's so great to hear from you, Alex, who kind of sitting at that younger end, I suppose, of how we traditionally think of volunteering happening later in our life. Thu-Trang, Tran, are you seeing that the age range of volunteers is a particular cohort, or is it across all the spectrums of age?
There is a particular cohort, and that's because in part people have a bit more time to give, because volunteering is about giving time. So we see it more in retirees and people in the older generations, but equally there's community participation that's not always measured by the ABS in terms of volunteering time. And we do see young people volunteering flexibly, virtually, and just in a very neighbourly way. So there is a high participation rate at that community building level.
I love it. And we're seeing more of it since the pandemic. Is it true as well, Alex's experience of sort of noticing during that time to reflect on how we want to participate in our communities? Thu-Trang?
Oh, sorry, I thought that was directed with Alex.
I mentioned Alex, just saying that his reflection, is it actually kind of symbolic of how that's working across the board?
Yes, it is. So what we see now is a even split in our data and research. There's people participating in community organisations, not-for-profits, around about 30%. But we also see a growing cohort, around about 25%, that are participating in the general at home, in neighbourhoods, and in just communities where you don't actually have like a formal registered group or organisation.
It's a really important week. It's one of my favourites, the Volunteering Victoria. We're celebrating our volunteers this week right across the country. Really appreciate both of you bringing it to life for us this afternoon. Thu-Trang Tran, who has just started as the CEO of Volunteering Victoria. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Jacinta.